Hi everyone. So we're going to have a look at sensory garden, the sound in the sensory garden. Hope you can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So we're going to have a little introduction, a bit of the benefits of sound in the sound garden, and then thinking what we actually can hear when we go into a garden. And then have a look at different aspects of a garden and where there's sound, how you might want to create your own soundscape. And then we'll have a little question and answer session if you want. And then we can go on to the craft session on how you can build your own bird bath. So sound is actually really important in a garden, whether it's the babbling sound of water, rustling of leaves, or chattering of birds. Even if we're not aware of it consciously, sound is around us everywhere. In fact, research is showing after our sight, it's the next most important sense for well-being. There was a session earlier this year by Surrey University about how soundscapes in particular can help our well-being. And when we get onto soundscapes, I'll talk a little bit more about that. And so it's also a huge part of our brains and how we build up a picture of the environment we're in. So whether we are actually feeling relaxed or stressed, and this comes down to sound. So why is sound so important in a sensory garden? So I just said, it helps us help us feel relaxed and put at ease. But it's also very important for some people who've got visual impairment as well as memory loss, such as dementia. It plays an important role helping children to actively engage in the environment around them. By simply closing our eyes and listening to the sounds around the garden, it is a great way of being in the moment, which we also call mindfulness. Sorry, got skipped onto her. So can we have a think of what we might hear when we enter a garden? Can we have, if you either unmute yourself, put it in chat, have some ideas of what sort of things you might hear in a garden? Anyone doing something that they might hear in a garden? I can't hear you, Katie, you're muted. I think you're trying to say something.
Yes, sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. You might hear birdsong, and you might hear wind through plants, so leaves or grasses, and footsteps of yourself or other people on different substrates, whether that were gravel or slate or things like that, those kinds of things.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Anyone else got something else they want to add that they might hear? Oh, there's a couple in chat.
Lorna saying birds, leaves, and trees rustling, running water.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have you go through the list that I came out with. I guess behave itself. Sorry, my. So yes, as skipped on too far. Sorry. Zoom's misbehaving. So yes, as Katie said, us. What about our pets? We might have a cat, we might have a dog that's joined us in the garden. Somebody might be cutting grass, you might be able to hear the machinery, as well as the stones and gravel underneath our feet as we're walking. Certain plants are noisy. We may have water features that we can hear, the trickling of a water feature. We might hear the birds, we might hear bees. We might have something artificial like wind chimes producing sounds. So there's lots of different sounds that actually we can hear within the garden. So as let's start as us walking into a garden. We might open a door and we might come out to a patio or decking area, and we would hear our footsteps against that. Or we might hear the grains of stones that we've put down, or we might put wood chip down. So immediately we might get hit by the sound of a beautiful bird singing at us. So the thing that we hear first is usually ourselves. And within that, we have stones are important within a sensory garden. You can have crunchy, they can be crunching, you can have chippings, you can have stones. But they can be used between birds and can be natural, or artificial. I mean, I've done once where we've got some clay, a circle of clay, and we've done handprints. So the participants have made handprints to show their paths. So then when they're walking into the garden, they can not just hear their footsteps, they can see their handprints in the clay. As I said, plants can be noisy. Well, one of the ones I often use is quaking grass. I used it in a peace garden recently dedicated to Eric Liddell to mimic him running. So that it made a nice gentle whooshing sound in the hand. Then you've got something like pheasant grass if you want some bright, colourful, all year round colour, but it also gently moves in the wind. Bamboo is another lovely one, but consider the fact it does spread very, very, very rapidly. So actually where you plant something like bamboo is important. Then we've got things like nigella, also known as love in the mist. Its little seed heads rattle. Another, you might want to grow sweet corn because then you can eat it. But then you've got plants like lavender that attract wildlife. You can hear the bees, you can hear the butterflies. Or you might simply want to buy a bug hotel and have that up to encourage wildlife, which will then in turn go to these plants. Mentioned water features. I used an old sink in the same peace garden I was developing recently. We found a nice old Belfast sink which had been abandoned in the garden, and we just turned it into a water feature. So as well as being able to hear the wildlife within it, or we can also feel the water. The sound of roaring water is known to help us relax. And you don't have to have some of these expensive electric powered ones. You can make something, as I say, out of an old bath. And as I'll show you in a bit, you can also make them out of flower pots. So you can do, it doesn't matter what your budget is, you can do something, you can buy something expensive, but you can also make something small. Talking of things that you might want to make, this is one I made using old baked bean cans. A very simple way to make a wind chime and get people involved with it in the making of a garden. But it's something you might want. So instead of going out again and buying something, you may want to get a group involved in making something. And wind chimes make so many different sounds. When I was looking to buy one recently, online, I was amazed how many places didn't actually let you hear what they sounded like, which I thought was rather weird considering it was the sound was what I was looking for, something gentle, that so many places didn't do that. But there are also ones now you can get that are specific pitch. So it's interesting if you're wanting to have something you can hear in a garden. It's not necessarily, oh, I'll just buy those wind chimes. You can find different ways of doing it yourselves or looking at what it is you're actually wanting that sound to be. Which brings me on to what a soundscape is. Soundscapes, we have sounds around us all the time. The sounds that you like, sounds you don't like. When I'm in my back garden, I can sometimes hear the buses and the cars the street over, but once I'm in the garden, I don't hear them. But we can enhance the sounds that we do like by creating a nice soundscape. But where you put the sounds, you have to think about what sound it's going to produce overall. You might not want to have a dozen wind chimes because that would probably do the opposite of relaxing you. And so you don't want a place where one sound dominates. You want a balanced sound. And it's these soundscapes that we're doing at Surrey University and finding from the wellbeing. They found in a hospital setting that people love bird sound in the toilets, but in the waiting room it made them very, very nervous.